The more we suppress anger, the sicker we get, the further we get from the truth that needs to be realized. Suppressed anger lives in the body as tension, autoimmune issues, depression, numbness. There is a cost to holding it all in. Hey, I'm Hannah, your host of Too Much, Not Enough. After a life-threatening burnout in 2021, I released the brittle version of success that was slowly killing me and built a life that feels as good as it looks. This podcast is for ambitious, soul-led humans ready to stop shrinking and start living big, bold, fully aligned lives. So if you've ever felt like too much and not enough, join me and my guests as we take an unfiltered deep dive into why being the real you was never the problem, and how to create a life your nervous system actually likes. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to Too Much, Not Enough. I'm your host, Hannah O'Donovan, and I'm so glad you're here today. I'm so glad every time that you tune into this podcast. It's just the frickin' best. So today, we're going to be talking about divine feminine rage. That's right, people. As a woman, there's a version of me that I was always afraid to let out. And that is the one who rages, who cries out, who shatters the silence when things are not okay. And I remember the first time I met my rage as a woman. It was the end of high school, and I was on a graduation trip. And a friend of mine was choosing a boy over me, something that she had done many, many times before. And I could see that this boy was not good for her. I could see that he was not treating her well. And I could see that, understandably, because we all do this, she was making decisions that were not in alignment with her best self and also her safety, quite frankly. And I was fucking furious. And I remember clocking in that moment that a version of anger and rage was coming out of me that I was not familiar with, that I had not met before. And then recently, I was co-facilitating a somatic channeling retreat in Colorado, and something cracked open again. And what poured out of me this time, it wasn't chaos. It was truth. It was divine feminine rage. And it did not destroy me. It did not scare me. It destroyed the illusion that I had to stay quiet, that I had to stay agreeable and sweet to be accepted and lovable. So in this episode, we are going to be talking about reclaiming your sacred, intuitive anger, baby. The kind that doesn't burn everything down. It burns everything false down. And there is a difference. We're going to talk about the deep spiritual intelligence of feminine rage and how to access it when it's been buried, and why healthy, embodied anger is a healing force, not something to hide, not something to be scared of, not something to run away from. So let's start with the lie of the good girl and why we as women suppress our rage. Most of us were taught that anger equals unstable, unhinged, and unfeminine. But rage is a natural response to violation, misalignment, injustice, both personally and as a collective. And if you are paying attention to the world right now, there are no shortage of things to be fucking furious about. And I feel like over our lives, this rage builds within us. And as a woman, the rage inside me has built over years and years and years of microaggressions, of injustices, of seeing how myself and other women are treated by the people close to us and the people far from us, the people we don't know, but who are keeping our power down. And thus, it is quite normal for a woman to get into her 20s, 30s, and beyond and not be familiar with expressing rage. For our big emotions and feelings of anger to come out in other ways because we are afraid of how it is going to look if we let that rage out, especially if it has been bubbling and brewing for a long time. And B, likely there is some fear of the power of that rage. Because here's the thing, divine feminine rage, when it's used purposefully, is fucking powerful. But there is a line between purposeful use of that anger and destructive use of that anger. And so I want to share with you my own story of divine feminine rage from the retreat, because I have certainly felt rage and on the odd occasion expressed rage previous to this, and not always in a quote unquote productive or purposeful way. But this experience that I had recently really showed me this illusion I had been under that rage and anger can only be destructive, because it can, in fact, be absolutely transformative and healing when cultivated and embodied in an intentional way. So, at this retreat, we had various different experiences of being witnessed in our gifts. Somatic channeling is a channeled form of energy work, and it, in some cases, can be a channeling of beings or energies or frequencies that exist within our world to help support us. And let me explain what I mean by that. So, I decided at one point that I was feeling called to step into the circle and be witnessed by the stunning 15 or so humans who were at this retreat. And I stepped in and I had no idea what would come through me. I just felt this like real sweaty palms pull to do this. And it was scary. It's scary to be witnessed in your full expression. And so I sat down and I started channeling, and it felt like this beautiful, sort of orchestrated, graceful dance, this divine feminine flow that was coming through me. And then at a certain point, I felt called to get down on my knees on the ground. And I did not know this was about to come through me, but I threw my head back and I screamed in a way that I have never screamed before. And it wasn't from a place of personal rage, injustice, mistreatment. It was what I can only describe as collective divine feminine rage moving through me. I screamed multiple times. It was primal. It was healing. It was all of these things. The sound that came out of me was one I have never made before. I didn't even know that I could make. And keep in mind, as I'm doing this, my eyes are closed and I am in a somewhat state of trance. I'm very aware of what's going on around me, but like I'm not connected to it. And so I'm on my knees, screaming, letting this divine rage move through my body. And as that comes to an end, I move back into this like beautiful, graceful movement, kind of a very poetic example of the duality of women, of the ability to hold grace and flow and anger and power and rage in the same sentence. As this channeled experience of being witnessed in my gifts came to an end, I open my eyes and I look around me to the group, which is majority women. Their faces are wet, tears streaming down their cheeks. And I start to realize that the reason that I was called into that circle and the reason that I became a vessel and started channeling what I channeled was for the purpose of collective healing. I had multiple women as well as a man come up to me after that experience and say to me, "Thank you. That was healing. You unlocked something in me that I have been burying deep down for so long." Some people said it felt like they were receiving energy work for me in what I did there. And this showed me so clearly that women's rage, when harnessed in a sacred way, will heal parts of this world. When we feel safe to express, safe to let all versions of emotions move through us, to cleanse and destroy the illusion of what is no longer right on this planet. It can be absolutely transformative. I did not know much about the Hindu goddess Kali before this happened. But afterwards, you better bet I dove in to understand more because it felt like the goddess Kali was there in the room with me, supporting this experience of collective healing. The goddess Kali is a prominent Hindu goddess associated with time, death, and destruction, but also with transcendent knowledge and maternal love. I also looked up what divine feminine rage really was because I wanted to understand it more. Divine feminine rage in various spiritual and philosophical contexts is not viewed as destructive or negative anger, but rather as a powerful, transformative force. It's a righteous, focused, and purposeful anger that arises from a deep connection to one's intuition and inner wisdom, often associated with healing, justice, and challenging oppressive systems. This concept is often linked to the goddess Kali in Hinduism, who embodies both destruction and creation, and is seen as a force that destroys illusions and outdated structures to pave the way for truth and compassion. And I just love that description because it takes what we believe as women as this like dirty, bad thing of expressing anger and gives it a sacred power, a necessary understanding that we must express our rage in order to break, to tear down the illusions that we are experiencing in this world and pave the way for better. So I want to go a little bit into the difference between destructive and purposeful anger. Destructive anger, which we have seen so many examples of in this life, is reactive and chaotic. There is this sense of darkness and evil associated with it. But purposeful anger is rooted in wisdom, boundaries, and clarity. Divine feminine rage is not petty, it's prophetic. It is an absolutely necessary tool to create change. And here's the thing, the more we suppress anger, the sicker we get, the further we get from the truth that needs to be realized. Suppressed anger lives in the body as tension, autoimmune issues, depression, numbness. There is a cost to holding it all in. Because rage not expressed becomes energy that is turned inwards, that is pushed down, that is quietened to remain the good girl. But that energy has to come out, has to transform into different things in order to be expressed. Just because we push that energy down does not mean that it disappears or dissipates. It turns into something else. It is what is making us sick. It is what is making us feel so disconnected from our truth. So not only do I want to destroy the lie that good girls do not express our rage, but I want to encourage you, in fact, to find healthy outlets to express your rage, to create sacred containers where you can allow this divine power to move through you so you can help transmute, so you can help break down these illusions to pave the way for truth. Some safe ways to express and process rage are shaking, vocal release, screaming into a pillow, frickin' love that one, primal movement. Some creative outlets are writing letters, art, sound. And then there are also ceremonial ways, screaming into nature, rage dancing. Get together with a group of women and allow yourself to be witnessed safely in your anger. Because feminine rage often arises as a soul alarm. When something isn't right or when you're being called to protect what is precious. Purposeful rage is the guardian of truth, and it opens the door to compassion, not from bypassing pain, but from walking through it. We have to walk through our anger. We have to share it. We have to allow it to come out in purposeful ways so that we can see the change that we want in our lives and in the world. So if you have ever been made to feel like you are unhinged, untethered, crazy, have lost the plot when you have shared your anger, shared your rage, I'm here to tell you that that is sacred, and do not ever let anyone make you feel like you are too much for expressing your own soul's alarm. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of prompts that you can reflect on here. And hopefully, if you have struggled in the past to express your rage, you might start to feel a little bit more open to that. So number one, where have I silenced or minimized my anger to be palatable or considered good? Number two, what stories have I internalized about what it means to be an angry woman? Number three, what does sacred, purposeful anger feel like in my body? And finally, perhaps most importantly, to direct this anger purposefully, what systems, beliefs, or illusions does my anger want to destroy so that something truer can take its place? And that is the core of divine feminine rage. What needs to be expressed in order to destroy the illusions to allow for something truer to take its place? Because we are all about chasing the real truth here. Thanks so much for being here with me today. I encourage you to go scream into a pillow if that feels good right now. And otherwise, I will see you next time.